Let's hit another heavy hitter. Let's go. Let's take out human insanity. Quite simple. There's various practices and habits that have been normalized from a point of not understanding. So you can't just say out loud insanity. But once you understand the flawed logic behind it, it does straight up is the definition of insanity. And what I'm talking about is something that I've been telling you, for an amount of time, just logic wise. And the aspect that you don't know what you don't know at any point in time. And the same goes for everyone else. Now, the point of insanity that's kind of been risen, that's kind of, this little normalized habit of insanity that has grown over time is basically this aspect of assuming what the other thinks, assuming the other's intention, assuming the other person's thought pattern upon an action. Best example, and I spoke about it quite recently, especially in the podcast, is this person that I had met prior at Mount Royal, but then recently met again, and we had a bit of a connection because this person does read a lot of this kind of material as well, yet continuously kind of dismantle. The brain kind of just goes haywire in a relationship to her neighbor, where it's always an aspect of the neighbor is doing this. Especially for me, it's a plot between the neighbor and that the neighbor is specifically doing this other action against me, and the focus just keeps going on the other person in that aspect of thinking that they are willingly acting against you at all points and multiple points. And this may sound silly, but look at the discussions happening online. Look at the people going into movements, radical movements, okay? And already assuming what the other person thinks. Not just the political movements. We're talking about even crusades and religious movements. Already assuming that everyone else is going to hell because they're not following your doctrine. Can you see the madness behind this? And the aspect of, I can automatically assume what you think, even though I will never perceive the granularity of your experience. I will never perceive the moment per moment per moment of, this buildup of your perception and why. I'll never be able to see you tweeting on the toilet. I will never know who you tweeted and how you felt tweeting. I can't feel and see from your eyes, so it is impossible. I won't even know why you chose your nickname. What inspired you to get to that? I'll never know. But apparently nowadays everyone can just pinpoint and assume and then virtue signal based off that assumption. Can you see how crazy it is? Okay, bring it up to another level, okay? Because there's a momentum to that. I can assume, and if I assume that what you have done is wrong, better said, I can assume, and from my perception, if my assumption, which just, fiction, imagination, which it is if from that assumption I perceive and deem that you're doing something wrong, then you'd better change that, or I'm gonna feel bad and angry, and it is your fault for me perceiving you and assuming it's your fault. And then reaction, just hate, anger just burst out because the logic does not make sense. It's like, I can't expect you to know how I feel and then blame you for not feeling well. I can't expect you to know exactly what would make me feel well. I can't expect you to magically know my perception and what led to that for you to be in charge of my wellness. Bring it up to another level. Leave it to the government's hand. Leave it to the teacher's hands. Leave it, blame the parents. Because, of course, they can't know what they do not know, so that they would teach their kids to act a different way, which would not make you perceive them that way, thus make you feel bad. The government need to immediately know the entirety of your internal feelings so that it can take charge and make you feel better with various programs and plans and all of that. Can you see the madness? Normalized, right? Completely normalized, because, you know, people in the news are bouncing back and forth. Television, TV series often keep that mentality happening, even up to parenting. And the aspect of shunning and yelling at your kid for not doing what you had in mind exactly the way that you had it, to exactly the way that you perceive it, you know, even up to that point is fucking madness. Because you're expecting that 2-year-old to have your 40, 20, 30, doesn't fucking matter the years that you have of granularity of perception built up. You're expecting the kid to know that. It's not to say, again, this ain't the blame game. This is basically understanding how habits are continue or perpetually generated. Because those very same parents were taught the same way, with that very same madness. Normalized madness. So it is and it isn't. But it is madness when you understand what is done at the core. From legitly understanding that as a kid you were a blank slate. You didn't have that environment and those mindset programmed into you early on. It just got gradual. But for people to expect that from one another and to leave their emotional surfaces, their emotional well-being completely in the hands of others, because that's exactly what you're saying. Safe spaces, all of that, it's completely putting that in the hands of other, bitching and whining about the government. Something that they need to do is completely, again, it's part of that. And it's not saying that when you bitch and whine about a government actively acting on you, that's a completely different thing. If you're completely living your well-being in the hands of other, yeah, that is fucking madness, because they will never be able to read your fucking mind. Now, if that other is infringing upon you, can you see the reverse scenario happening? Oh, I deem, from my perception, that you need this, so I'm gonna force it upon you. Can you see how that keeps itself in a loop? You know, it's kind of fucking nuts when you think about it. Now for the extra notch, and that's the second point on this. The extra notch that just brings this whole aspect to complete fucking madness is the way that we were indoctrinated with the word empathy. Or empathy. Doesn't fucking matter how you say it. I couldn't care less. I'm French Canadian. English is whatever. Okay? Empathy. As I've said, when you continuously watch a TV show, a TV series, you are programmed with that mood. Not voluntarily, but that's the effect of repetition. So binge watching sets you up in that tonality, in that mood. Your subconscious gobbles it up. Does not make it conscious logic, but emotionally it makes sense due to its repetition. So it is normal to feel a certain way. Now, here's the thing. You fucking know, I gave you a 1-for-1 breakdown of that whole hard emotion. And if you haven't done that practice, try it. Shit on yourself. Really, shit on yourself. Then shit on someone else. It's a variation of that same feeling. You feel like crap. But more so, separation between you and the entire universe, or God, or Allah, or Buddha, whatever you want to fucking add to it, okay? 2020, we couldn't give much more of a fuck. We're all saying the same thing now. And you take that time if you want to argue against that. We were all saying the same thing. Yes, there were cults here and there, and yes, there was organization and indoctrinated religion that fucked around with those texts. But at the core, we're all saying the same thing, that heart connection. You'll feel the same thing if watching a baby being born, or watch a baby enjoying life. You're going to smile. Recall yourself at a point where you're at a dance party, or you were having just loads of fun, go-karting, skydiving, whatever, any activity that gets you into loads of fun, even competitive video games. Same variation, same feeling. It's a variation of that feeling. So when you understand that aspect of empathy, of you constantly feeling bad when someone else is having a trials, a tribulation, something is happening in their life, and again, you have absolutely no context of thoughts leading to emotions, leading to actions, leading to results. That's the psychological branch. You have no idea of the intention and the repeated thought leading to a manifestation. That's the metaphysical branch. Can you see both branches and how you have absolutely no context of that leading up to the incident to which you're feeling bad, which is straight up telling you you're disconnected from yourself and the universe. But then you had society kind of going, you're quite insensitive if you're going to completely ignore that both of these contexts leading up to the event and not feeling bad to this event, you know. Can you see the continuous programming that happened indirectly? Because when you don't know, you don't know. We've been fighting over religion as a civilization for hundreds of years, you know? And the same kind of goes for when it comes to the aspect of, again, you don't know what you don't know, and you can't really guess other people's granularity. Remember, we had a time and era where people would shoot each other for opinions. In a duel, or in the Wild West, I hate your face, bang, done. You know? It's not that far away, because we did have stories about people killing themselves over Kool-Aid. No, I'm talking about that kid who shot the other one over who makes the best Kool-Aid. But can you see the repetition of those perceptions that keeps people in that mindset? You're not being insensitive if you don't care for an outside event. You don't have the context, which will give you the logical breakdown of understanding how that situation happened, so that you can have a range of ideas of how to fix it. You just get bullet point news style of this happened at that time, this is the perpetrator, this is my opinion on this person, and this is the news. But it's still my opinion, because I got no fucking clue what life event led this person to this lens of perception that would get them to this situation. But we ate that. We ingested that. It was normalized. It's fucking a madness. Literally, when you start breaking that consciously and reflecting back on your experiences without staying in that basic surface level logic that was given to you. You never chose. It's not a conscious choice, because conscious tells you what's going to happen 10 steps ahead. What's going to happen if I keep that mindset and that perception lens for 2-4 years? If I repeat the current momentum in my life in hyperspeed to see what's going to happen. You never made that choice. It was never given to you because we did not collectively know as a society. This is why over and over in history, you've seen people fall into that trap. Best example, oh my god, video games are gonna train killers, video games are so evil. And then they go off and try to make a law, a generalized law for a few people's perspective, which caused them to get into incidents. But hey, there's a time factor here, so this in general has to be taken care of. Same happened with music, same happened with movies, same happened with weed, same happened with funny enough, funny enough, and this is something that kind of gets a bit of a wait, what's going on here? When it came to people, mentalists, okay, who do stage shows in hypnosis, they need to get a license in order to do so. Because, of course, you can't just go outright hypnotize people. Some people do. They don't do it with a license, but some people do. But commercials effectively do the same thing with various different sets of skills using imageries, tonality, and music to do the very same thing with even more effectiveness at nighttime. Before you go to bed. There's a reason why they tell you don't watch horror movies before you go to bed. You'll think about it, you'll sleep, you'll have your nightmares. But repeat that over and over again, and oh man, your daytime anxiety raises. You didn't get enough sleep. There's consequences for that. There's results. So mentalists and stage shows have to have license, set up contracts, and then they have to preemptively ask whoever in the stage wants to be hypnotized, because if you don't want to and you put a firm foot on it, then you won't. But commercials and various media indoctrination, just that concept, and it's not saying that commercials are doing this willingly. Well, they are and they aren't. Again, non-duality, yada yada yada. But they don't have a license for that. They don't ask us if we want to get that hypnosis. So you kind of get the fact that you have, as an individual, have to take care of your logical mind and your subconscious mind. You have to take care of your feelings. You cannot expect the world to understand the granularity of your perception. You take this in hand and do your exercise, your repetitions, your meditations, your mindfulness of your own being every day. And yeah, the light just this is working on a tablet camera. But yeah, you personally have to take care of this, because you understand how crazy it is to expect everyone else, even organizations, even programs, even the government, or even the justice system, to consider and understand the granularity of your experience. It is insanity. Hell, even when it came to cases of cults, and back in the days, a couple of years prior, they threw those out. They because they're like, okay, well, we can't efficiently prove the programming that happens. We're dismissing that. The fuck? Don't worry. They didn't know what they didn't know. And again, this piggybacks off of this one way, one perspective, one way to see things. There can only be one option, and that's it. That's all. It is what my career says, or else it's my name, my identity, my peer groups that will shun me. Even though I could be helping fucking thousands. We've been running with that mentality for a while. And I applaud those who just went out and said, fuck that. Plenty of people, motivational speakers, neuroscientists, yogis, plenty of people nowadays that kind of understood, yeah, what Bruce Lee was saying and various other people were saying, various other philosophers were saying, because it's not just Bruce Lee, but famous quote, be like water. Integrate and blend them all, It's actually fucking helping. Look at MMA. The person that will stay with one stance, one style, one technique range, crushed. Jiu-Jitsu came in and fucked you. Raw, because they couldn't, staying, let's say you're a striker or a fighter, well, you're not used to grapples. So as soon as a grappler comes in, oh no, oh no, It is the very same effect that happened when Bruce Lee went off and challenged martial artists. All right, I have the snake stance. Okay, I got a punch to the face. Real fast. It didn't matter. It was all about reaction. Yes, there's the practice of multiple types of styles and techniques. Yet at the end of the day, be like water. Boom. And it's not really reaction. It's more of a controlled response. Because Bruce Lee was in this groove, is this moment. It's not, reaction was a poor word. That's why I said, better said. A controlled response done at such a light speed because of that confidence. Yet all of that is blending multiple techniques and being able to perceive multiple responses to a situation and then going out of intuition and instinct, not out of fear. Which is why the recent programming that you've all been consuming like Kool-Aid, how to put people in a fear mentality, instead of telling you from multiple perspectives, here are a list of things that you can try. Give it a shot and become more aware to how your body responds. But again, it's a cyclical habit, you know. One person, one organization, leave your internal well-being to one thing, one stance, one organization, one aspect, because you don't necessarily want to be wrong. And why? Because again, the habit of other people judging you from their perception, meaning some kind of a thing, while your heart literally tells you, whoa, you're disconnecting from yourself and the universe, what's up? But we were never told that. So those habits perpetuate it. You can notice the link of perpetual habits, one chaining next to another, keeping people in a state of mind that just keeps them locked in and continuously looking out to others in this aspect of the key, you know, of finding the key to stop being locked in. While ultimately the key was always inside them. It always is. You're the only one who can see your perception and know your background and history to the granularity that you paid attention to at the time. You're the only one. So, yeah, 2020, 2021, being able to perceive that, being able to understand that, not just go, oh, it's God's will. Oh, it's the government's will. Oh, it's some other organization's will. We're able to perceive that now. We've seen how it happened in history. We understand how it happens right now. People on social media getting angry over their perceived, or actually their perceived vision of what the other one's intention is. You can't perceive someone else's intention, but it's based off prior patterns that have been noticed or seen or ingested. So, hey, movie patterns, all right? I mean, I can see how we have movie presidents patterns happening and occurring all over the place now. You know, it's like, you gotta watch out, everything, push the red button, you gotta watch out. Well, yeah, they've watched the same movies. And beat per beat, people are reacting the same way. Fear. They're not being their main character. They're not being the main character of their story. And it's one thing that I'll leave you on. Something I really learned from Tony Robbins, even at a point where I wasn't fully consciously understanding this material, but it still stuck to me. You're the main character of your story, and you get choice of what your soundtrack is, what your response is, and what your mood is. You also got to be careful not to follow run-of-the-mill movie logic, but the principle is the same. You got choice. You take actions from your base mood, which is based on your perception, which will give you a response, well, a result, you know, upon action. You are the only one that will be able, as the main character, to loop back and see that chain. So, you can't expect, don't perpetuate that cycle of expectation from others. Balance it. Understanding that you have entire control over your reaction and your perception of everyone else. Also, let me splice in some of that metaphysical lens because, hey, 2020, 2021, we're going to get to learn this real fast. Is the fact that whatever you perceive in another, you perceive within yourself. And whatever is reflected back from another is a message for maybe something to clean up within yourself. Either perception or your own perpetual habits that you are spotting in others. Especially if you're in that gossip zone. If you are, instead of staying in a passive way and then, keeping yourself in your own vomit in the sense, because that's what it technically does. Law of attraction will tell you so. Whatever you repeat continues, both in the aspect of metaphysical but also subconscious, because that's what you'll perceive. Well, then use it as a mirror. Use it as a reflection and see what you kind of have to clean up. And then it becomes a game. Just like life, it is all a game. When you're able to perceive it and fully understand, you don't know what you don't know. So that bad feeling of judgmental aspects towards yourself or feeling bad for something that you did, stop that shit. Heart connection. You can't know what you can't know. So if someone else doing that to you is complete madness, you doing it to yourself is also madness. So stop it. Stop it. Instead of do it. Stop it. And play this game. Play it like fun. Understand. You can see the perpetual momentum of evolution that led us to this point. So you can understand the patterns. And you can see the behavioral patterns passed on. But getting less and less and less perpetual? Getting less popular? Less and less invisible to our understanding would be something to add there. Because back then, if it was visible and understood, then there would be more people understanding that, which would mean we would have less of this going around. But, just the fact that we're able to perceive it and have multiple techniques to run with this in the aspect of cleaning that within, multiple techniques, meditation, LLP, mindfulness, psychology is evolving. Just look at the multiple lenses and make your own soup and you'll figure it out. I tell you. Just takes practice. As well as being aware of your own thoughts. So, have fun. Do it. Don't stick in that madness. Seriously, I don't want to say that we got played, because again, isn't. As I said, most population didn't necessarily take attention and focus on that, and it wasn't the popular momentum. Actually, it was really shat on early on in the 70s and 80s. On the popular lens, but you see where it leads, right? Do you want to continue following that popular lens? Fuck it. Go to an extreme. Remember World War II? That was a popular lens, right? Prior to that. How easily can people get manipulated following out of fear? Quite easily. So, you've got choice. You always have choice. And whenever you're going to yell at someone else, you're just yelling at yourself. Also, because you're using the same mental process on yourself and your subconscious thoughts. So, whatever you're going to blame someone else, you're going to jab yourself if you ever perform and do, which you should never do. Same feeling, same momentum. Now, kick some asses. You've got resources out there. You've got the internet. More powers than the Pharaoh on your phone. So do it. That's the one I'll do. Just do it.